Thus did the flower of House Strong, an ancient line of noble warriors boasting descent from the first men, come to an ignoble end in the ward at Harrenhal. The writings of Archmaester Galdane, Fire and Blood, The Dying of the Dragons, Rhaenyra Triumphant. House Strong was amongst the oldest and most distinguished noble families of the Riverlands, ruling from their colossal fortress of Harrenhal. Like so many of the dynasties that possessed the castle before and after them, the Strongs would ultimately share its ruin. Their line ended amidst the turmoil of the Dance of the Dragons. According to semi-canon sources, their arms displayed 3 vertical bands of blue, red and green upon a white field, representing the 3 forks of the trident. Little is known about House Strong's history before Aegon's conquest. What records do survive suggest they were one of the few river lords to retain a notably strong First Men heritage long after the coming of the Andals. By the time the Targaryens arrived in Westeros, the Strongs were already established amongst the principal noble families of the Trident. The defining moment of their early history came during Aegon the Conqueror's invasion. As the Riverlords rose against Harrenhal, king of the Isles and Rivers, House Strong joined House Tully and the other rebel lords in abandoning their Ironborn overlord and declaring for House Targaryen. While Aegon's armies and their Riverland allies closed around Harrenhal, Harren the Black sought desperately to inspire his followers to strike at the invaders' greatest advantage, their dragons. To any Ironborn warrior capable of slaying Balerion the Blackdread, he promised the hand of a maiden of House Strong. The offer proved meaningless. No man succeeded in bringing down Aegon's dragon, and Harrenhal soon met its infamous fate beneath Dragonflame. In the decades that followed the conquest, House Strong continued to prosper under Targaryen rule. The first member of the family to achieve prominence throughout the realm was Ser Osmund Strong, who rose to become Hand of the King under King Aegon I Targaryen. Following the death of Lord Alton Celtigar in 17 AC, the Conqueror selected Osmund as his replacement, entrusting him with one of the highest offices in the Seven Kingdoms. Ser Osmund's years as Hand coincided with the continued growth of the young Targaryen realm. When reports reached the Iron Throne of an attack upon Tall Trees Town in the Summer Islands, Aegon turned his attention to strengthening the defences of King's Landing. Osmund, working alongside Grand Maester Garwin, was charged with overseeing the construction of walls around the rapidly expanding city. The project began in 20 AC and continued until 26 AC, transforming the city's defences and helping secure the heart of the realm. His service was not confined to administration alone. In both 29 AC and 30 AC, Osmund joined Lord Aethan Velaryon, the Lord Admiral and Master of Ships, in expeditions against the Lyseni pirate king Saragos San in the Stepstones. Among those who took part in these campaigns was the young Prince Maegor Targaryen, gaining valuable military experience alongside some of the Crown's most senior commanders. Ser Osmund remained Hand until his death in 34 AC. With his passing, the office went to Lord Alan Stokeworth, but House Strong had firmly established itself among the most respected families of the realm. In generations that followed, its members would rise even higher, producing renowned warriors, Kingsguard knights, Hands of the King, and some of the most controversial figures in Targaryen history. By the reign of King Jaehaerys I Targaryen, House Strong had become firmly established amongst the leading families of the realm. No member of the house emboldened the growing prestige more than Sir Lucamore Strong, a knight whose strength, charm, and popularity made him one of the most celebrated men of his generation. Lucamore first rose to widespread prominence in 55 AC, when King Jaehaerys held a magnificent tourney to commemorate the completion of the Dragon Pit, one of the greatest achievements of his reign. Among the many renowned knights who competed, it was Lucamore who emerged victorious in the great melee fought within the newly completed structure. The triumph further enhanced his reputation and brought him to the attention of the king. The following year, fortune smiled upon him once again. After the death of Sir Willem the Wasp, a place became vacant within the Kingsguard. Jaehaerys chose Lucamore to don the white cloak, rewarding both his martial skill and his popularity among the people. Young, broad-shouldered, fair-haired, and possessed of a gentle nature, Lucamore quickly became a favourite at court. The small folk adored him, and many regarded him as the very image of a gallant knight. It was during these years that Lucamore witnessed one of the most horrifying events of Jaehaerys' reign. In 56 AC, Balerion the Blackdread unexpectedly returned to King's Landing, carrying a gravely wounded Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen. While crowds gathered in shock and confusion, Lucamore forced his way through the onlookers and personally carried the dying princess to Grand Maester Benefer. The experience left a deep impression upon him. In the days that followed, he spoke often of what he had seen, describing Rhaenyra as painfully thin and consumed by fever so intense he claimed he could feel the heat through his armour. He told listeners that there had been blood in her eyes and that something appeared to move beneath her skin. Such tales spread rapidly throughout the city until King Jaehaerys himself intervened, ordering the knight to speak no more of the princess's condition. At the height of his fame, few men seemed better positioned for greatness, yet the very night celebrated throughout the Seven Kingdoms would become the centre of one of the greatest scandals of Jaehaerys' reign. In 73 AC, Rhaenyra Targaryen died at Harrenhal after years of effectively ruling the castle. In the aftermath, King Jaehaerys granted the lordship of Harrenhal to Lucamore's brother, Ser Osmund Strong, further elevating the fortunes of House Strong. Before the year was over, however, the fortunes would suffer a devastating blow. The scandal began when Rime Redwine uncovered evidence that Lucamore had violated the sacred vows of the Kingsguard. Investigations revealed the knight had secretly married not one woman, but 3, with each wife entirely unaware of the other. More astonishing still, Lucamore had fathered 16 children between them. The revelation sent shockwaves through King's Landing. Sir Rime brought the matter before Lord Commander Giles Morrigan, who ordered Lucamore seized and brought before the Iron Throne, alongside his wives and children. Courtiers were scandalised, though the small folk found endless amusement in the affair, turning the disgraced knight into the subject of countless jokes and stories. When brought before King Jaehaerys, Lucamore confessed his crimes and pleaded for mercy. According to Septon Bath, the king may have even been inclined to grant it until the knight foolishly begged for forgiveness. For the sake of my wives and children, a reminder of the very offence for which he stood accused. Jaehaerys' judgment was swift. No oathbreaker, he declared, would continue in royal service. Queen Alysanne proved equally unforgiving. She noted that Lucamore had not only broken the vows of the Kingsguard, but had also dishonoured the sacred institution of marriage itself. Since none of his unions considered lawful, all 16 of his children were declared bastards. The Queen reserved some sympathy for the wives, acknowledging that none of them had known of the others, though she also observed that each had knowingly married a man forbidden to wed. The punishment that followed destroyed Lucamore's life, stripping him of honour and position. He was gelded by his former brothers of the Kingsguard, before being sent to the wall to serve in the Night's Watch. 2 of his elder sons chose to accompany him in exile, while one of his daughters entered the faith and became a sceptre. His wives were scattered across the realm. One was placed under the protection of Lord Lyonel Strong at Harrenhal, another was sent to Driftmark under Lord Daemon Velaryon, a third was entrusted to Sir and the young Lord Borman Baratheon at Storm's End. Their children were forbidden from bearing the name Strong, and instead received bastard surnames according to the regions in which they were raised. Rivers in the Riverlands, Waters in the Crownlands, and Storm in the Stormlands. Thus ended the career of one of the most celebrated knights of his age, remembered thereafter as Lucamore the Lusty. His disgrace was recorded forever in the White Book of the Kingsguard. Singers across Westeros later transformed his downfall into a comic song, ensuring that long after his deeds had faded into memory, the tale of his excesses would continue to entertain the realm. The Hand Will Not Hector Me, King Viserys I Targaryen, about Lyonel Strong, Fire and Blood, Heirs of the Dragon, a question of succession. By the early years of King Viserys I Targaryen's reign, House Strong had reached the heights of its influence. No man contributed more to that ascent than Lord Lyonel Strong, one of the most respected statesmen of his generation, wise, learned, and widely regarded as a man of sound judgment. Lyonel helped transform House Strong from a prominent Riverlands family into one of the most powerful houses in the Seven Kingdoms. Unlike many great lords, Lyonel's education had extended beyond the training expected of a noble heir. As a young man, he studied at the Citadel in Old Town, forging 6 links of a maester's chain, before ultimately deciding the life of a maester was not for him. Returning to the Riverlands, he inherited Harrenhal during the latter years of King Jaehaerys Targaryen's reign. Those who met Lyonel for the first time often underestimated him, a large, broad-shouldered man with a warrior's build. He was slow to speak and rarely wasted words. His reserved nature led some to mistake him for a simple brute. In truth, Lyonel possessed one of the keenest legal minds in the realm. His years at the Citadel had left him highly educated, deeply knowledgeable, and practically well-versed in the laws and customs of the Seven Kingdoms. Combined with his practical wisdom and reputation for fairness, these qualities earned him widespread respect among both nobles and commoners. Nor was Lyonel merely a scholar. He enjoyed a formidable reputation as a warrior, and was considered a dangerous man in battle. Few lords of his generation combined martial ability and intellectual talent so effectively. His rise at court began in 105 AC, when King Viserys appointed him Master of Laws. Lyonel brought his family with him to King's Landing, placing House Strong at the centre of royal politics. His daughters entered the household of Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen as handmaidens, while his sons quickly established themselves in positions of influence. The elder Ser Osmund Strong rose through the ranks of the City Watch to become one of its captains. The younger Larys Strong entered royal service amongst the king's confessors. Over the next several years, Lyonel's reputation continued to grow. His measured temperament, legal expertise, and ability to offer honest counsel distinguished him from many of the more ambitious figures at court. When Sir Otto Hightower fell from favour in 109 AC, King Viserys selected Lyonel to replace him as Hand of the King. The appointment marked the high point of House Strong's fortunes. For the first time, the family possessed both the greatest castle in the Riverlands and one of the highest offices in the realm. From Harrenhal to the Red Keep, the influence of House Strong could be felt throughout the Seven Kingdoms. Yet, even as Lyonel guided the King's Council with wisdom and restraint, forces were already gathering that would threaten everything his family had built. The growing tension surrounding Princess Rhaenyra, her succession, and the rival factions forming a court would soon draw House Strong into the centre of a conflict from which it would never fully recover. Of Lyonel's children, none would become more famous than his eldest son, Ser Harwin Strong, known throughout the realm as Breakbones. Harwin embodied the martial reputation of his house. Massive in stature and renowned for his extraordinary strength, he was widely regarded as the strongest man in the Seven Kingdoms during his lifetime. Feared by his enemies and admired by his allies, Harwin became one of the most recognisable figures at court. In 112 AC, he was among the many noble suitors who sought the hand of Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen. Although the princess ultimately married elsewhere, Harwin's connection to her would only deepen in the years that followed, becoming one of the most controversial relationships of its age. According to Mushroom's accounts, the turning point came in 113 AC. He claimed that Harwin, returning to the Red Keep after a night spent drinking and revelling in King's Landing, encountered a distressed and rejected Rhaenyra. The princess allegedly found comfort in his company, and Mushroom later insisted he discovered the pair in bed the following morning. Whether true or not, Harwin's closeness to Rhaenyra became increasingly apparent. At the grand tourney celebrating her marriage to Ser Valerian in 114 AC, the princess publicly bestowed her favour upon Breakbones. During the festivities, Harwin suffered severe injuries at the hands of Sir Criston Cole, when his collarbone was broken and his elbow shattered. Mushroom referred to Harwin thereafter as Broken Bones, a joke at Harwin's famous nickname. From that point forward, Harwin became a constant presence within Rhaenyra's circle and emerged as one of her leading supporters of the faction that would eventually be known as the Blacks. By late 115 AC, his relationship with the princess had become the subject of widespread speculation. Certain Eustace records that both Ser Valerian and Harwin were present during the births of Rhaenyra's second son, Lucerys. When tensions between Rhaenyra and Queen Alicent Hightower grew increasingly bitter and the atmosphere at court became intolerable, the princess withdrew to Dragonstone. Harwin accompanied her as her sworn shield and trusted protector. As the years passed, rumours concerning the parentage of Rhaenyra's sons only intensified. Many whispered that the boys resembled Harwin far more than they did Lyonel Velaryon. Though such accusations remain unproven, they became one of the most contentious issues in the realm. The controversy finally erupted in 120 AC. During a confrontation, Prince Aemond Targaryen openly referred to Rhaenyra's sons as Strongs, transforming whispered rumours into public insult. The resulting violence forced King Viserys to intervene. Harwin was removed from his position as Rhaenyra's champion and ordered back to Harrenhal, where Ser Eric Cargill of the Kingsguard took his place. It proved to be the last major chapter of Harwin's life. Later that same year, a devastating fire swept through Harrenhal. Both Harwin Strong and his father, Lord Lyonel, perished in the blaze. Officially, the tragedy was deemed an accident and attributed by many to the ancient curse said to haunt the great castle. Few accepted a simple explanation. In the years that followed, suspicion fell upon numerous figures. Prince Daemon Targaryen was accused of removing a rival for Rhaenyra's affections. Lord Corlys Velaryon was said by some to have sought vengeance for the dishonour brought upon his son Laenor. Others pointed to Larys Strong, whose path to Harrenhal's inheritance was suddenly cleared by the deaths of his father and brother. Some even suggested that King Viserys himself had ordered the deed to eliminate the man whose alleged relationship with Rhaenyra had brought scandal upon the royal family. No proof has ever emerged to support any of these theories. The truth of what occurred at Harrenhal in 120 AC remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of the age. What is certain is that with the deaths of Lyonel and Harwin, how Strong lost two of its greatest figures in a single night, a blow from which the family would never truly recover. The enigma that was Larys Strong the Clubfoot had vexed students of history for generations, and is not one we can hope to unravel here. Where did his true loyalties lie? What was he about? The writings of Archmaester Gildane, Fire and Blood, the dying of the dragons, the short, sad reign of Aegon II. If Lyonel Strong represented the height of House Strong's influence, then his youngest son embodied the final and most mysterious chapter. Larys Strong, remembered in history as Larys Clubfoot, would become one of the most feared and enigmatic figures of the Dance of the Dragon. Unlike his father, who earned respect through wisdom and justice, or his brother Harwin, who had won renown through strength and valour, Larys built his power through secrets, manipulation, and an uncanny ability to survive political upheaval. Born with a twisted foot that left him with a permanent limp, Larys spent his life in the shadow of his elder brother. While Harwin became celebrated throughout the realm for his physical prowess, Larys developed a different talent. Quiet, observant, intensely private, he rarely spoke unless he had something worthwhile to say. Those who encountered him often found him difficult to read. Though capable of being charming and persuasive when necessary, he maintained few close relationships and carefully concealed his true thoughts from friends and foe alike. As he rose through the ranks of royal service, Larys cultivated a reputation for patience and cunning. He eventually secured the positions as both Lord Confessor and Master of Whispers, giving him access to information from every corner of the realm. Through spies, informants, and hidden networks of influence, he became one of the most powerful men at court, despite lacking the martial reputation that defined many of his contemporaries. Even today, historians continue to debate Larys' true motivations. Throughout the Dance of the Dragons, his actions frequently benefited the Green cause and King Aegon II, yet he never appeared to possess the unquestioning loyalty displayed by men such as Sir Criston Cole. Many scholars believed his opposition to Rhaenyra Targaryen stemmed less from his devotion to Aegon than from resentment over the scandal that had engulfed House Strong. The rumours surrounding Harwin Strong and the parentage of Rhaenyra's sons had brought controversy and ridicule upon his family, giving Larys ample reason to oppose her ambitions. Whether family pride, political ambition, personal bitterness, or simple opportunism guided his actions remain uncertain. Adding further mystery to the history of House Strong was the figure of Alys Rivers. Sources disagree regarding her origins. Some claim she was a bastard daughter of Lyonel Strong, while others place her birth a generation or more earlier. Whatever her true ancestry, her connection to Harrenhal and House Strong become increasingly significant during the dance and its aftermath. eventually earning her a place in history as the Witch Queen of Harrenhal. When King Viserys died in 129 AC, Larys stood at the centre of the conspiracy that would ignite the Dance of the Dragons. He attended the secret meeting of the Small Council that resolved to crown Prince Aegon, rather than allow Princess Rhaenyra to inherit the Iron Throne. During the gathering, Larys cut his own palm and had other male conspirators swear a blood oath, binding them to their cause. The outbreak of war immediately threatened House Strong itself. Prince Daemon Targaryen swiftly seized Harrenhal for the Blacks, depriving Larys of his ancestral seat. Yet, despite losing the castle, the Clubfoot remained one of the most influential figures within the Green regime. Following the murder of Prince Jaehaerys in the Blood and Cheese affair, Queen Alicent Hightower is said to have ordered him to oversee the torture of blood after his capture. Around the same time, Larys prepared a list of black supporters for Sir Criston Cole as the Hand marched to war. His greatest achievement came in 130 AC, during the fall of King's Landing. As Rhaenyra's forces approached the capital, Larys managed to escape capture and orchestrate the secret evacuation of King Aegon II and the king's surviving children. Using hidden passages beneath the Red Keep, he spirited them from the city before Rhaenyra could seize them. Recognizing the danger of keeping the royal family together, Larys divided the fugitives. Sir Rickard Thorne of the Kingsguard was ordered to escort Prince Maelor to Old Town and the protection of Lord Hightower. Sir Willis Fell was tasked with taking Princess Jaehaerys to Storm's End and Lord Boros Baratheon. King Aegon himself was disguised as a commoner and secretly sent to Dragonstone under the care of Sir Marsden Waters. Larys reasoned that Rhaenyra would never think to search her own stronghold for her rival. Yet even among the Greens, not everyone trusted him. Prince Aemon Targaryen became convinced that Larys had somehow facilitated the loss of King's Landing, whether motivated by suspicion, paranoia, or simple cruelty. Aemon responded by ordering the deaths of every remaining member of House Strong at Harrenhal. The ancient house would now be reduced almost entirely to Larys himself. Despite these losses, the Clubfoot continued to work behind the scenes. After Queen Helena's death, rumours spread throughout King's Landing that Rhaenyra had ordered the murder. Mushroom later accused Larys of deliberately spreading the story in order to inflame public hatred against the Queen. Whether true or not, the rumours helped fuel the unrest that eventually exploded into the riots that drove Rhaenyra from the city. The chaos that followed offered Larys yet another opportunity. During the Moon of the Three Kings, when Sir Perkin the Flea seized the Red Keep and elevated the pretender Tristan Truefire, Larys emerged from hiding and seemingly joined the new regime. Perkin welcomed him and granted him a place of honour at Tristan's side. As was often the case with Larys Strong, appearance proved deceptive. While publicly supporting the pretender, he worked to secure the release of Queen Alicent, Grand Maester Orwyle, and Lord Corlys Velaryon. When Lord Boros Baratheon arrived outside King's Landing with an army, Larys offered to negotiate on Tristan's behalf. Instead, he secretly conspired with Perkin and the other Green loyalists to betray the pretender and restore the city to Aegon II. Perkin and his followers were promised pardons in exchange for their assistance, though Tristan himself was ultimately excluded from such mercy and later executed. At the same time, Larys manoeuvred to preserve the support of House Velaryon. When Alicent proposed executing Lord Corlys for his earlier support of Rhaenyra, Larys reminded her that King Aegon remained vulnerable on Dragonstone, surrounded by Velaryon ships. He advised that Corlys be spared for the moment and dealt with only after the war had been won. During this period, Larys also arranged a political marriage for himself, agreeing to wed Florys Baratheon, one of Lord Boros Baratheon's daughters. Following Aegon II's return to power, divisions amongst the Greens became increasingly apparent. When Sir Tyler Lannister suggested executing Prince Aegon the Younger, Lord Corlys objected fiercely. Larys persuaded the king not to punish the Sea Snake, warning that doing so would only create another enemy in Alan Velaryon. He later informed Corlys plans existed to remove him once his usefulness had ended, drawing the old lord into a conspiracy of his own design. By the closing months of the war, the Clubfoot was once again helping shape the fate of the realm from the shadows. Yet the schemes that would end the dance would also bring about the final destruction of House Strong. The final chapter of House Strong unfolded amidst the closing days of the Dance of the Dragons, when victory itself had become difficult to distinguish from defeat. By then, the realm had been devastated by years of war, and the men who remained at the centre of power were often those most skilled at surviving chaos. Few exemplified this reality better than Larys Strong. Following Lord Boros Baratheon's defeat at the Battle of the King's Road, the position of King Aegon II became increasingly desperate. Lord Corlys Velaryon urged the king to seek terms and bring the war to an end, but Aegon refused to surrender. Anticipating uncertainty ahead, Larys quietly arranged for Princess Baela Targaryen to be removed from the capital, so she could not be used as a hostage against Corlys or his family. Soon afterwards, the war took its final and most decisive turn. King Aegon was found dead, poisoned, with blood upon his lips. The circumstances of his death immediately became the subject of suspicion and speculation. Whatever the truth, the king's passing removed the last major obstacle to negotiating peace between the factions. In the aftermath, Larys and Lord Corlys moved quickly. The loyalists who remained committed to continuing the conflict were either imprisoned or eliminated, while the surviving Greens were persuaded to submit as the victorious armies of the Riverlords and Northmen advanced upon King's Landing. The Iron Throne passed to Aegon the Younger, Rhaenyra's surviving son, who was married to Princess Jaehaerys I Targaryen in an effort to reunite the rival branches of House Targaryen and heal the wounds left by the war. When the armies of the Riverlords entered the capital, they were greeted not with resistance but celebration. Many later believed that the welcoming crowds had been carefully orchestrated by Larys himself, another example of subtle political manipulation that defined his career. Yet, for all his skill, the Clubfoot's fortunes were about to change. The arrival of Lord Cregan Stark and the northern host marked the beginning of the Hour of the Wolf, a brief but uncompromising period of justice in the aftermath of the war. Though Cregan Stark had fought for Rhaenyra's cause, he was determined to punish those responsible for the murder of King Aegon II. In his view, regicide could not be excused regardless of the political necessity. An investigation began. The conspiracy surrounding Aegon's death gradually came to light. Grand Maester Orwyle confessed that he had supplied the poison used to kill the king, claiming he had done so at Larys Strong's request. Sir Perkin the Flea admitted that he had acted as an agent of the Clubfoot. Lord Corlys Velaryon acknowledged his own involvement, arguing that Aegon's death had been necessary to secure peace for the realm. Larys characteristically refused to offer either a confession or a denial. When questioned by Lord Stark, he met the accusation with silence, revealing nothing of his motives or intentions. Whether this was an act of defiance, resignation, or calculation remains unknown. Cregan Stark condemned both Larys and Corlys to death, yet once again, politics intervened. Through the efforts of Alysanne Blackwood, Lord Velaryon was spared execution. Most of the lesser conspirators escaped the headsman's sword by agreeing to join the Night's Watch alongside Sir Perkin. Larys Strong and Sir Giles Belgrave of the Kingsguard made a different choice. Both rejected the wall and chose death instead. The executions were carried out presumably by Lord Stark, using the Valyrian steel greatsword Ice. Before his sentence was carried out, Larys made one final request. He asked that his twisted clubfoot be removed from his body, so that in death he might finally be free of the deformity that had defined much of his life. Cregan granted the request. With that, the life of one of the most enigmatic men in Westerosi history came to an end. The severed heads of Larys Strong and Sir Giles were displayed upon spikes outside the gates of the Red Keep as a warning to all who might place ambition above loyalty. Larys's body was later entrusted to the Silent Sisters, and years afterwards his bones returned to Harrenhal for burial among his ancestors. As for the removed foot, Cregan ordered it to be buried separately in a field. Before the order could be carried out, however, the limb vanished. Whether stolen, misplaced, or taken for unknown reasons, it was never seen again, becoming one final mystery in the life of the man once called the Clubfoot. With Larys' death, House Strong passed into history. Once among the most powerful families in the Seven Kingdoms, the house had produced Hands of the King, celebrated warriors, Kingsguard knights, and master schemers who shaped the fate of kingdoms. Yet like so many dynasties that ruled Harrenhal, the Strongs ultimately succumbed to the same ruin that had claimed their predecessors. Their rise had been remarkable, their influence immense, and their fall complete. By the end of the Dance of the Dragons, House Strong was extinct. another noble line added to the long and tragic history of Harrenhal.